You what, mate? Right. The bad news is, it's the second episode of Top of the Pops in a row that is hosted by the supercilious shithouse himself, Noel Edmonds. But the good news is, we are doing a very much of a milestone Top of the Pops reaction today, as we see the top 30 for this week, the week being, or the day that this was originally broadcast, the 6th of May 1976. So those of you who've been paying attention to Top of the Pops reactions since I started doing these way back when the world wasn't on fire. Oh, and ABBA at number 1, so we should be hearing them later, pending a cut. So, 6th of May 1976, this edition was originally broadcast. There we go, that's some information from the German channel 1 Festival, where certainly this copy of this episode was first from, or was found from, I should say. It was first on BBC One, obviously. Although 76, well, there's still junk in things by this point. Probably. Not as much, I wouldn't have thought, but yeah, it was a little bit before VHS came in, so yeah. Anyway, as I say, it's a milestone. Those of you with long memories and knowledge of which years I have and haven't covered in the Top of the Pops reaction series will know that this is the final 1970s edition that I had to do. The final year, I should say. Every year in the 1970s decade is now represented on in this series, and you can find all of them in the Top of the Pops reactions playlist, along with everything else relevant to this particular video series. I don't know who this is, that's why I'm just kind of waffling on. It's got quite a disco tinge to it, hasn't it? Although they look like this sort of like a really kind of pound shop glam rock band, don't they? There'll be people watching this, they'll know who this would have been instantly, but you'll have seen who this is on the info bar down at the bottom. Thank you for joining me again. Now then, I wanted to get the 70s done. Important year for Top of the Pops, for music, but it is a decade, sorry. I do apologise, and I actually don't record these as live, so I don't edit bits out of me making mistakes or, you know, whatever. But an important decade, but it is one where, particularly for a year like this, 1976, 4 years before I was even born, I'm well out of my comfort zone, as I've said before in previous videos, and I can't promise that there'll be many more 1970s editions coming up now that I've covered every year in that decade, but who knows. I don't want to say, oh yeah, I will cover this, I won't cover that particular year. I'm just going to, as always, really play it by ear, but for this year and a lot of last year, I was deliberately trying to find editions of the show from years that hadn't been seen on the channel yet.
What a sensible way to get us underway.
Maud. That was Maud, blimey. They're quite eclectic, really, aren't they, Maud?
It is, in fact, Frankie Valli's Fallen Angel. Mind you, come to think of it, they're almost one and the same thing, really, aren't they? Glad you kept the key.
So, Frankie Valli, Fallen Angel, is this?
It seemed a million years to leave.
Rather a maudlin ballad. It's got very syrupy strings on the background. Is that Frankie Valli? Honestly don't know. He said Frankie Valli, and as always, I mean, I'm not really predisposed to pay attention to Edmonds at the best of times, but as always, I just wasn't really listening properly. I was kind of thinking what I was going to say next. The joys of a live reaction, or as live. Obviously this isn't live as in happening. Anyways. Shut up, James. I don't know. Kind of songs with a lot of orchestra and strings in the background. I do. Yeah, I would like more than I dislike, but I don't know. I'm still on the fence with this one, really. Certainly that mud song, I had no idea that was mud either. They've done like an Elvis impression. They were glam rock, and then 1976 they were trying to do disco. What else have they done? Did they get into grunge in the early 90s? That's a rhetorical question, by the way. I've heard worse, but I mean, this isn't my scene really. A very sort of, very knowingly and almost cynically sort of pulling at your heartstrings type of ballad, really, isn't it? And I'm on the fence with it, but if I was sort of having to jump off one side of it or the other, I think I'd be going on to the side where I didn't really like this. I didn't rate it. So yeah, going back to the issue of what's covered next. I mean, there's still milestone editions that I am intending to cover. I've got the next few episodes of Top of the Pops lined up, and one or two of them are particular milestones, either for me personally or for the show itself. So I don't want to give any more away. And yeah, there's still ones from the 1960s that. Years from the 60s that will never be able to be covered, I don't think.
Story tripped over a harp and over she went with a big bump. We got the Stylistics here, and we've also got Ruby Flipper, and I'll tell you more about the Flipper in a moment.
So this is the Stylistics, and the dancers will presumably be Legs & Co. I think this was Legs & Co.'s era by now. Ruby Flipper. I'm sure I've reacted to the Stylistics on here before. It's a bit of an annoying era, Top of the Pops, this, because, like, as you can see, Edmonds isn't even really giving chart positions. So, well, he hasn't so far, anyway. That's a cover of Can't Help Falling in Love. It's not like a melody, is it? The dance troupe in Ruby Flipper, is it? Oh, I don't know. I'm confused. This is Can't Help Falling in Love. I didn't even know the Stylistics had covered this. Yeah, I'm the one learning things, watching this, So much I've discovered over the years doing this, like, oh, I didn't know such and such had a hit with that, and, this is a prime example. It's alright for me to kind of sit doing something from the late 80s or the 90s and sort of being sat here, oh, I remember that, I can reel off information and facts. It's all well and good, and I like doing those episodes, obviously, but, ones like this from 1976 are a real learning curve. So yeah, I would have thought Ruby Flipper. When the way Edmonds presents, it's like I don't give enough information. Well, I'm assuming that's the dance troupe, and I mean it rings a bell, but I thought they went Pans People to Legs & Co. Perhaps Ruby Flipper were briefly. I mean, it's certainly a male and female troupe, which is unusual for Top of the Pops. Yeah. I don't know.
Top of the Pops has made a little bit of a move on the dancing front, and Pans People have sort of moved slightly stage left, stage right. We've got Ruby Flipper, and you might recognise two of the faces there, but 5 new faces, and they're going to be doing various dance routines throughout the Top of the Pop series. Floyd will be coming back in just a little while, but in the meantime, here is a very, very beautiful song written by David Pomeranz and presented here by Barry Manilow.
Alright. So yeah, Ruby Flipper were probably short-lived dance troupe between Pans People and Legs & Co. So yeah, Edmonds did eventually clear that up. Now we've got Barry Manilow, or if you really want to be pedantic about it, Barry Manilow. TC Kirkham of the Kirkham Report, I know he's a big fan of Barry Manilow. Shout out to my friend across the pond, TC. Please check out his Kirkham Report series and all his other recurring videos on his channel. Great channel, TKR Video Central. Is that the first shout out I've ever given in one of these? I don't really like doing shout outs because I record these, as you know, a bit in advance, so you never know what might have happened sort of months down the line when this video eventually gets published. But I'm risking it anyway. But yeah, TC is, as are a lot of people, a big fan of Barry Manilow, and I have to hold my hands up and be totally honest. Can't stand him. Just not my scene whatsoever. No, it's not even sort of, you know, reaching the mark of passable for me, this one. I think the most positive thing I can say about it is it's probably not the worst Barry Manilow song I've ever heard. I mean, Copacabana just gets on my tits. I'm sorry, it does. So yeah, so far the music in it, I quite like that Stylistics Can't Help Falling in Love. That was quite fun, and I wouldn't say I'm a big disco fan. Italo disco, certainly, even new disco, but just kind of, you know, original 70s sort of pop, you know, disco pop. I can leave more than I can take, really. But I did enjoy that. That's been probably my highlight so far. But I'm assuming we'll see ABBA later, as they were at number 1. I don't know which ABBA song it'll be. Not long to find out, but if I have to cut it, then I'll have said something or put something in the notes at the bottom as to what it was. Always assume I have to cut ABBA. I think the last time I reacted to ABBA, I didn't get a copyright block. Nearly said strike. A block and a strike are different things. Yeah, it's a bit of a funny year, isn't it, 76, by the look of it, at least taking this episode in that context, really. It was after glam rock had really sort of peaked, by the look of it. I mean, Mud were into disco, but it's certainly, you know, a good, almost a year, I would say, before punk exploded. It's this sort of weird kind of area of probably soul, disco and cheesy listening, what they'd call in the States as adult contemporary, like Barry Manilow and whatever.
Excellent. Barry Manilow. And he's trying to get that feeling again. I suppose if you call a number single bed, then you're bound to have to get up and make it at some point. And make it they have. Fox are this week's number 5 sound.
Oh, we gave the chart position. The number 5 sound for Fox. Don't know what it's called. Will I figure it out as it goes on? Probably not. What an unusual voice you've got. If you were listening to this on the radio without knowing the band, the group, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was maybe like a new Alvin and the Chipmunks thing, but maybe slightly sort of pitched down. Oh, and then got male vocals coming. What a weird thing this is. I mean, it's another sort of, well, I was going to say disco. It's sort of, I don't know, to me it's more sort of like a really early kind of new wave thing for me, this. I don't know. I don't want to get hung up about the sort of genres of songs and things. I quite like it. It's growing on me. Her voice is odd. I think I'd like it a lot more if there was a different lead vocalist, but I think she reminds me of something. She reminds me a little bit of Claire Grogan from Altered Images, although I mean it's a little bit unfair to Claire Grogan. I think she was probably a better singer than this lady, or at least her voice didn't grate on me as much as this lady's. I say it's grated on me. It's it's more unusual for me than anything. But I think the song, which I'm assuming is called Single Bed, as they keep going on about a single bed, I quite like it. I think I'd like to hear someone else cover it, or someone else sing it really. But yeah, this isn't bad. Well, now he's got one of them voice box things. That's who made that famous? Was it Peter Frampton who made the voice box? There will be other artists who did it, but it's very 1970s, isn't it? The voice box. I don't think anyone used it after 1979 probably, New Year's Eve. Singer there wearing a pair of hot pants, and your man there's got a very nice 70s mullet. So I wonder if this gets to the number 1 at some point. It's at number 5, so it's not far off. But I think I would have known this better if it had been a number 1. Maybe not. You'll have seen the peak chart position on screen earlier on.
And Fox really do take their success lying down. The Single Bed. This, an X-Radio on Breakfast Show Record of the Week. I think this is lovely. Sound of Robin Sarstedt. My Resistance is Low.
My Resistance is Low by Robin Sarstedt. Now then, I believe Robin Sarstedt here is the brother. I don't know if it's older or younger. I'll guess it younger, but I'll have put some info down on the ticker bar. But he's the brother of Peter Sarstedt, who I reacted to not only a few months ago actually. He was number 1 with Where Do You Go To My Lovely on an edition of Top of the Pops from 1969. The first 1960s episode, and so far the only one that I've managed to find that's not got Jimmy Savile in it, and that I've been able to react to, and it's been pretty full as far as cuts and stuff go. So really happy to get that one done. If you've not watched that one yet, it is in the Top of the Pops Reactions playlist, of course. I urge you to check it out, as there's some really good stuff on that. And me as well, because it's a reaction, so yeah, I'm on there too. Sorry.
So don't be persistent, please keep your distance. You know my resistance is low.
So yeah, Robin Sarstedt, that's about the size of my knowledge. I remember when I was looking up information for Peter Sarstedt, I was finding his name a little bit of a tongue twister. I don't know who the female singer is, but they haven't got her in the studio, whoever it is.
Maybe I should resist. I'm a fool, I know. Resist me, baby. At a time like this,
when I was looking up the information for Where'd You Go, My Lovely, and Peter Sarstedt, I'd learned that he had 2 brothers actually. One of them, his stage name wasn't Sarstedt, it was something else. I've no doubt mentioned it here on the info bar. I can't say I'm pitching a tent for this, to be honest. I do like Peter Sarstedt's way. I'm comparing him, like, they're 2 different artists. Yeah, they're related, they're brothers, but I shouldn't really be comparing them. I mean, different eras. I mean, this was 7 years or more after Where'd You Go To My Lovely. Did Peter have any hits in the 70s? Probably 1 or 2. No, wasn't keen on that.
One of my Records of the Week to one of my Artists of the Week. In fact, this week's Breakfast Show Artists of the Week, Sutherland Brothers and Quiver, and a beautiful number, very successful indeed. They're about to sink rather seductively into the arms of Mary.
Sutherland Brothers? Into the arms of Mary, maybe? Yeah. Into the arms of Mary. Sutherland Brothers. Ringing a very vague bell for me. Couldn't say where they're from. The initial sound, I mean, it sounds kind of like your sort of country, maybe leaning towards Americana kind of sound. That, well, I'll never be a big country fan. The actual sort of Americana kind of music, you know, Tom Petty. Sort of stuff. I'm trying to think of other artists that maybe John Mellencamp is in that genre as well. I'm obsessing over genres again, and I'm saying genre too many times. Don't play the genre drinking game, because I might get you pissed. But Sutherland Brothers, I quite like this. This is nice enough. Nothing obviously has really kind of grabbed hold of me. I mean, the Stylistics was probably still the highlight for me, and that was more of a surprise than anything. I wasn't even expecting that to be a cover of a song that I've liked numerous versions of over the years. UB40's version of Can't Help Falling in Love is probably certainly the one in my youth that did very well. Yeah, I quite like this. I'd say this is one of the better things that I've heard on the show. I just sorry I can't really give you much more information about Sutherland Brothers. They sound American to me, but it's that guitar, it's that countrified somewhat sound, isn't it? But they might not be. I don't know where they're from. You'll know, because I'll put it on screen, and then I'll know, because I'll be putting that information on screen after the fact. That is how making these videos works. I don't get some other schmuck to do it, unfortunately.
Sutherland Brothers and Quiver, of course, in the arms of Mary. Hear more from them tomorrow morning on the breakfast programme about 10 to 8. Now from the arms of Mary to the arms, legs, voice, screams and whatever, and even the whistles. Tina Charles.
Love me like a lover.
Tina Charles?
Love me like no other. Love me like a lover. Love me like no other.
A lot of artists here that kind of, I don't know, just maybe had quite a short lifespan in the UK charts and didn't really, you know, like probably came and went within like a couple of years or so. Oh, Tina Charles, I'm getting a feeling I might have reacted to her before, but I can't remember, so I'm going to just assume now, maybe wrongly, that this is the first time I'm seeing Tina Charles, at least in these reactions. She has got an air of familiarity about her, even though this song I'm pretty certain I've never heard before. Another disco flavoured hit, so disco getting really big at this point. We've got a solo dancer there in the background. Oh, what do I think of it? Average, I'd say. No, yeah, average, maybe even dipping into below average. It's not my scene. You know, your mileage may and probably will vary. You know, I mentioned Barry Manilow earlier, how I personally, I'm not sure there's anything he's ever done that I've actually enjoyed. But, you know, he's been going for donkey's years. You know, he's obviously got, you know, millions of fans, or at least hundreds of thousands.
It smells awful. No, it's very nice indeed. This is rather nice. It's the highest new entry this week in the chart. Comes in at 22, and the Rolling Stones are back.
Oh.
Showing people all over Europe, but making some incredible music as well. A Fool to Cry.
Right, okay, so a band and a song that I know after all this time. It's Rolling Stones on Top of the Pops. I would argue possibly quite a rare appearance for the Rolling Stones as well on Top of the Pops. You know, you would have thought they were a bit too big for Top of the Pops at this point, but yeah, it's Fool to Cry, and it's the Heist new entry at number 22. Ballad. There's oh, what's his name? He played on pretty much all Rolling Stones albums. I think his name's Ian Stewart or something like that. And he played on pretty much everything the Stones did from the beginning in the early 60s up until I think into the 80s. But he was never classed as an official band member because apparently the original Stones management, what was his name, Andrew Lou Golden, just didn't think he had the right look. I mean, if you look at him, he kind of looks like a roadie or someone, you know, like maybe someone's dad. You know, he's not got that sort of cool sort of Hellraiser look that Jagger, Richards, even Wyman. I mean, Wyman was a little bit older than the rest of the band. Even he could make a bit of an effort to look kind of cool for the era. But Ian Stewart, I think his name was, really the sixth Stone for you know, a good couple of decades, and played with them live and everything, and he's obviously appearing with them here on Top of the Pops, which I was quite surprised about. But as far as kind of publicity and you know, promotion goes, just was never seen as an official canonical Rolling Stone, which was a little bit of a shame for him, given he was probably a big contributor, as big a contributor as any other band member. That was Fool to Cry. Yeah, that was all right. I don't think that's the Stones' greatest ever track, but certainly one of the better things I've heard on this episode.
It's very interesting at the moment, great variety, and records of many different sorts of appeal making it. Here's one that rocks and swings, and it's from Mac and Katie Kassoon. I wish him a lot of luck with it. It's all about two individuals. In fact, the two of us.
Two of us. He's a Mac. Somebody. I don't know. So much on here I'm completely unfamiliar with. I think this is another one. You know, it's just kind of nice just to sort of, you know, see the Rolling Stones, see some familiar faces, like old friends. Oh, Mick, Keith, Charlie, where have you been all these years? This is ringing some vague bells for me. I think I've heard this somewhere before. It sounds like something that may have been used on a commercial at some point or in some film or TV programme. Another soul, sort of leaning in towards disco hit, this. Yeah, it's alright. It's alright. I can't talk an awful lot about the artist because I don't know who they are. That's what the info bar's for. Yeah, what I meant to mention earlier when I was talking about sort of finishing the run of 70s editions on here, you know, if people want a particular year covered and it happens to be a year in the 70s, even though you know, I'm maybe looking to move on from this particular decade now in the series. If people want a particular year looked at and reacted to, then let me know in the comments here or shoot me a message on social media. You know, I'm willing to take requests, really.
Katie Kassoon and the two of us, and the three of us are doing all right. We really are. Here's a relationship involving two people, but a relationship of a different sort. I think I'll leave the explanations up to J.J. Barry.
J.J. Barry.
Now, our little boy came up to his mom in the kitchen this evening while she was fixing supper. And he handed her a piece of paper he'd been writing on.
Presumably he's American, or possibly
And after wiping her
Canadian,
hands on
but
her apron,
unless it's like an English
She
guy
read.
doing an accent, which
and this is
wouldn't
what it
surprise me.
For mowing the lawn,
So it's kind of like a
$5.
sort of, you know, like a narrative sort of song where basically he's just telling a story, he's talking to it.
Going to the store, 50 cents. And playing
What a
with little brother
strange
when you went
edition
shopping,
this is.
25 cents. Taking out the trash, $1. And getting a good report card, $5. And for raking the yard, $2. Total owed,
There's a lot of fondness for the 70s relating to music, but
well,
and I know
there's
this is
no
only
stand
1
there
week's
expecting
worth of chart hits and
and I can
things
see
out
the
of a
memories
whole
flash
year,
through her
but
mind.
you know, I
And so
think
she picked up the pen,
you know there was some pretty
turning the paper over.
dreadful and
This is what she wrote.
pretty dross kind of
For the 9 months I
stuff.
carried you,
76, if this is like a snapshot of the
no charge.
whole year, which it probably isn't, I'm sure, but
For the nights I sat up with you,
you know, it doesn't strike me as being a particularly strong year for music, this. You know, there's some great stuff in like previous years in this decade, some good stuff in subsequent years, but just this is, you know, I'm really pleased that I'm able to watch this, and it's the 1 year out of the decade that I hadn't looked at here on YouTube yet.
there's no charge.
But what the hell is this?
For the
And why
nights
is it
filled with dread,
a hit in the
all
UK?
worries ahead, no charge. For advice and knowledge, the cost of your college, no charge. For the toys, food and clothes,
Starts to creep me out the way he's looking to camera as well now.
there's no charge. And when you add it all up, the full cost of my love is no charge.
He's not really sung.
Well,
He's
when
not,
you
has
finish
he?
reading,
Does he sing at
he had
all
great
ever,
big old
this
tears
guy?
in his eyes.
Is it like
and he
J.J.
looked up at
Barry?
her standing there and
I'm
said,
assuming not all of his
Mama, I sure do
output has just been him kind of
Then he took the
speaking
pen
over
and great big
music.
letters.
I don't know. I don't know.
paid in full. And Lord knows when you add it all up, the cost of real love is no charge.
I've not been impressed with this edition, to be honest. There's very little that I've got remotely excited about. Stylistics, I quite like that. It was a bit of fun. Rolling Stones, I liked seeing it, but I don't think that was one of their strongest singles, to be honest.
Amazing. Dear me. That is J.J. Barry on his way to a monster success. Incidentally, Mr. Barry is married to a very talented lady. She writes songs, she writes hit songs, she writes songs that sound immaculately like this for Cliff Richards. It's make you shaking your wellies, the devil woman with the red hair, the green eyes, and she nicks your wine gums. A nasty woman. Don't say you haven't been warned, because Cliff put out quite a good warning there. Here's ABBA, and they've finally made it. They've been in the top 5 so long, I thought they had to go down, but they have gone up, and they've taken over from Brotherhood of Man with the story of Fernando.
Alright, so this is our number 1, and it's Fernando by ABBA.
Can you hear the drums?
Looks like it might be a promo video, this, rather than a studio performance. So, yeah, well, I do like ABBA, as you know. I'm not a massive fan, although I've got all their albums, the majority in a box set. So, you know, that would put me in the fan camp, certainly. Fernando, I would say I like. Maybe I'm trying to. I don't want to kind of try and do a ABBA singles ranking in my head here. I couldn't do that justice just in sort of, 1 or 2 minutes. But I don't think it'd be my top 10 ABBA singles. But it's I like it. How many number 1s would they have had at this point? Probably I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 possibly by this time, and I'm sure they'd still be due some more between now and when did they split up initially? 1982. I think they only had one number 1 in the 1980s. I think that was I Had a Dream. I do apologise if I'm getting that wrong. So yeah, this is the promo video for ABBA. Or some sort of promotional clip anyway, that may have been recorded especially the Top of the Pops, but I'm assuming it wasn't. This was just the general promo video available for all across the world. Yeah, good number one. Very nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice way to end. I say end.
Fernando. Don't forget, breakfast show tomorrow morning. We got Sutherland Brothers and Quiver as featured artists of the week. An awful lot of good sounds, many of which you've heard this evening. I hope you've enjoyed this Top of the Pops. Till we meet again, sound like Vera Lynn. Bye-bye.
Right, so yeah, we're all being played out with something, and I'm not sure what it is, but it'll be something that's in the chart, no doubt, and you'll be able to see it on screen now. But the credits are on. What a weird one. Interesting to watch, but as far as actual musical enjoyment for me personally, not an awful lot to be found here. But you know, you may have loved it, and if so, I'm really glad. And as the credits have now finished, I need to shut up and say goodbye and ask you to join me again next month for June's Top of the Pops reaction. So please do that. Cheers, everyone. See ya.